friends, welcome back. This week we are going to start a brand new type of writing. Now, we have focused heavily on personal narrative, and personal narrative is an absolutely true story about you. Now I want to take that, the whole foundation we built, and all of the strategies we used, and we're going to apply them to just narrative writing. Now, the difference of what we're going to do is it's not just personal. It's not just about you. In narrative writing, you have a little bit of freedom. You get to make a choice of whether you want to have a real story or a fake story, whether you want to base the story on you and something that happened to you, or if you want to just make up the characters and make up the setting and come up with this whole creative story. We've seen a lot of this done in some stories we've read in class. We've read Edward the Emu. This is a great fiction story about an emu. This has all the elements of narrative writing. We've read Stella Luna, another made-up story about a bat that thought she could be a bird. We read A Bad Case of Stripes, where Camilla Cream was afraid to be herself. You've listened to Owl Moon and listened to this personal narrative story as a mentor text for personal narrative writing. But we can definitely take details from it and put it into some made-up writing. And we've also read Crankenstein. This was a great story about a little boy who was very cranky. All of these stories can be used to talk about narrative writing. Now, narrative writing tells a story. It doesn't have to be a true story. It can be a fake story. It can be a made-up story. It's up to you what you want that story to be. But all narrative writing has characters. It has a setting. They have problems and solutions and so much more that we're going to learn about. Now, we're going to take what we learned in personal narrative and apply that to our narrative writing. We're still going to do a 5-page plan. We're still going to have dialogue in our story. We're still going to have a great beginning and a really strong ending. We're still going to do those things, but we're going to talk about a few other things that you guys are going to learn about. Now, before we get started, we have to think about brainstorming. We have to think about, where do these ideas come from? Well, we have to plan those ideas out before we can ever organize a story. So what you're going to need for today's writing lesson is you're going to need your writing journal. You are going to need a pencil. You are also possibly, if you want to, going to need some colored pens, colored pencils, crayons, something you can do to make your ideas page pretty and fun to look at. All right, because I want writing to be fun. So if you need to grab those materials, pause the video, go grab your materials, and then we'll get started. All right, guys, so you have your materials with you, and we are going to talk about how to brainstorm topics. Now, this is not, with the way my journal page looks, let me tell you, yours does not have to look the same. Yours can be however you want. If you want yours in a list, or if you want to divide it into sections, it's up to you. All right? But what you're going to do is you're going to go to an open page in your journal, the very next open page, and we're going to plan out some narrative topics. Okay? I put a heading on top of my page. You can absolutely put the same heading on top of yours, narrative topics. All right? And then what I did was I thought about different categories of things, because I got to thinking about, okay, well, in order to write a good story, even about something made up, I have to have a little bit of knowledge of what I'm writing about. You know, I don't know a whole lot about going out into space. So maybe that might not be a good story for me to write about. But you know, I do love a lot of different settings. So maybe space isn't the best setting, but if you know a lot about planets and space and going on spaceships, that might be a good setting for one of your stories. Maybe that'll inspire some ideas. All right? But I thought about things I love. So I put a heart, and then I just made a list of all kinds of things I love. Pizza. Who doesn't love pizza? Rainbows, family, princesses, happy endings. Oh, I love happy endings. All right? Teaching. Of course, I love teaching, especially writing. I love dogs and beaches and reading. And, oh, I even put writing down. These are things I love. Then I went and said, well, you know, my story has to have a setting, and I really need to know a lot of detail about the settings. So I made a list of places I love. So I've listed the beach, the mountains, you know that from my personal narrative story, I love rocking on a porch, just sitting on a porch and rocking, or sitting in a swing, laying down in a hammock. Nothing is more relaxing than laying in a hammock. I really like just kind of being out in nature and in the forest, or even out in the snow. There's so many good stories that can come from the snow. And then I thought, well, my story has to have characters. And of course, I love people and my family. But then I got to thinking about, well, if I was going to make up a story, what kind of characters might I have? Well, I might put dinosaurs in there, or a prince or a princess. I got to have a villain. Villains make everything interesting. They always cause problems. All right? And then, there's got to be some animals somewhere. There's not a whole lot better than a talking animal story. We all love those. Okay? And I made a list of things that I loved. Now, do I expect your list to be as detailed as mine? Absolutely not. I am modeling good writing and good planning strategies. Okay? You guys are able to do what you think of. Organize it how you want. If you have something you think is a good idea, you can write that down too. Like, I love the story of Frosty the Snowman, so maybe I might want to write a story about a snowman coming to life. Or maybe I want to write about getting lost in the forest. I think about Hansel and Gretel and what happened to them. And then, even a story about somebody having crazy dreams. That would make a really interesting story. Mm-hmm. But some of your narrative ideas can also come from things you wish for. Maybe things you wish could happen. Like maybe you want to have magical powers and you want to be able to change things. Or you want to have a fairy godmother or have a genie to give you some wishes. Those are all great ideas. So anything you can think of that can go on this brainstorm page, put it on your brainstorm page. It's up to you what goes on your page. Okay, so I want you to think about things that you know about, things you love, things you might want to see or wish you might have. Think about places, just good ideas for stories, and jot down some details to help you remember. Today is going to be the start of your unit, so we are going to brainstorm. This is what you are going to do in your journal. You're going to take a picture of this, turn this in to your teacher on Seesaw, and we cannot wait to get this unit started. All right, brainstorm your ideas, write them down, organize them how you want. Doesn't matter how many ideas you have, but you need to have a few, and we cannot wait to get started with writing. I'll see you guys next time.